Welcome to our advanced guide on Java backend interview questions, tailored for professionals with 6 to 10 years of experience. At this stage, interviews shift from basic syntax to deep dives into system design, architecture, and real-world problem solving. In this video, we'll walk through 31 essential questions covering core Java, Spring Boot, REST APIs, concurrency, and microservices. We'll also discuss the reasoning and trade-offs behind each answer, helping you stand out in technical discussions. Let's set the stage for a journey that goes beyond memorization, focusing on production experience and clear communication. Let's start with a classic. Can you override a static method in Java? The answer is no. Static methods belong to the class, not the object. If a subclass declares a method with the same signature, it's method hiding, not overriding, and this is resolved at compile time. Interviewers expect you to distinguish between compile time and runtime polymorphism, showing a deeper understanding of Java's object model. This question often leads to discussions about inheritance and how Java resolves method calls, so be prepared to explain the underlying mechanics. Next, what's the purpose of the finally block? The finally block is designed to execute regardless of whether an exception is thrown. It's commonly used for closing database connections, releasing resources, or closing files and streams. The only exception is if the JVM exits abruptly, such as with System.exit. This question tests your understanding of exception handling and resource management, both critical for robust backend systems. Being able to explain when and why finally might not execute shows maturity in handling edge cases. What is a marker interface? A marker interface is an interface with no methods, used to provide metadata to the JVM or frameworks. Examples include serializable and cloneable. By marking a class with a marker interface, you signal special behavior without forcing method implementation. This concept is foundational in Java's type system and is often used in frameworks to enable or restrict certain behaviors. Understanding marker interfaces helps you appreciate how Java leverages metadata for flexibility and extensibility. Let's compare list and set. A list is ordered, allows duplicates, and supports index-based access. In contrast, a set does not allow duplicates and may or may not preserve insertion order, depending on the implementation. Hash-based sets offer faster lookups. The key takeaway is to use a set when uniqueness is required. This question often leads to discussions about data structures, performance, and when to choose one collection type over another in real-world scenarios. You store null in HashMap and Hashtable. In HashMap, one null key and multiple null values are allowed. In Hashtable, neither null keys nor null values are permitted. This distinction is important for understanding legacy code and for making decisions about which map implementation to use in different scenarios. Interviewers may ask follow-up questions about why these differences exist and how they affect application behavior. What happens when two keys collide in a hash map? If two keys produce the same hash, they go into the same bucket. Java uses the equals method to differentiate them. Since Java 8, buckets can convert from a linked list to a balanced tree when the size crosses a threshold, improving performance. Understanding collisions is crucial because it impacts the efficiency of your data structures, especially in high-throughput systems. Is HashMap thread safe? No, HashMap is not thread safe. For concurrent use cases, you should use concurrent HashMap or collection synchronized map. Concurrent HashMap is generally preferred because it allows better parallel access. This question tests your understanding of concurrency and safe data sharing in multi-threaded environments, which is essential for backend systems. Which methods must you override when using a custom object as a map key? You should override both equals and hashcode. If not implemented correctly, key lookups will behave unpredictably. This is a fundamental concept in Java collections and is often a source of subtle bugs. Be ready to explain how these methods work together to ensure correct behavior in hash-based collections. What's the difference between map and flat map? The map function transforms one element into another, while flat map flattens nested structures. For example, you can convert a streamless string into a stream string using flat map. This distinction is very common in Stream API transformations and is key to writing clean, functional-style Java code. What is optional used for? Optional represents a value that may or may not be present. It helps avoid null pointer exception and makes null handling explicit. Using optional encourages better API design by forcing callers to consider the absence of a value, leading to safer and more predictable code. What's the difference between runnable and callable? Runnable does not return a value and cannot throw checked exceptions. Callable, on the other hand, returns a result and can throw checked exceptions. Callable works with future, making it suitable for tasks where you need a result or need to handle exceptions. This distinction is important for designing concurrent tasks in Java. What does synchronize do? The synchronize keyword provides thread safety by ensuring mutual exclusion and visibility guarantees between threads. Only one thread can execute a synchronized block at a time for a given lock. This is a foundational concept in Java concurrency, ensuring that shared resources are accessed safely. What's the difference between sleep and wait? Sleep belongs to thread and does not release the lock, while wait belongs to object, releases the lock, and must be called inside a synchronized context. This is a very common interview question, as it tests your understanding of thread coordination and synchronization in Java. What is a deadlock? Deadlock happens when two or more threads wait forever on each other's locks. Ways to avoid deadlock include lock ordering, timeouts, using concurrent utilities, and avoiding nested locks where possible. Understanding deadlocks and how to prevent them is crucial for building reliable multi-threaded systems. What is the default scope of a Spring Bean? By default, Spring Beans are singleton scoped, meaning Spring creates one instance per container. This is a practical example of the singleton pattern and is important for understanding how Spring manages object lifecycles. How do you read property values in Spring Boot? You can use the @value annotation or @configuration properties. Properties are typically stored in application properties or application (IML) files. This approach allows for flexible configuration and is a core part of Spring Boot's design philosophy. Which annotation creates a REST endpoint in Spring Boot? The answer is @REST controller. It's usually combined with @get mapping, @post mapping, @put mapping, or @delete mapping to define specific HTTP methods. This is fundamental for building REST-TFL APIs with Spring Boot. What's the difference between a path variable and a request parameter? A path variable is part of the URL path, such as /users/ed, and is usually required. A request parameter is passed in the query string like /users, id equals 10, and is often optional. Understanding this distinction is key for designing clear and intuitive APIs. What does HTTP 201 mean? HTTP 201 stands for created. It means the resource was successfully created, most commonly returned after post operations. Understanding HTTP status codes is essential for designing and debugging REST-TFL APIs. What's the difference between 401 and 403 HTTP status codes? 401 means unauthorized, authentication is required. 403 means forbidden, the user is authenticated but doesn't have permission. This distinction is critical in API security design and helps prevent common authorization bugs. Is REST stateless? Yes, REST is stateless. Each request must contain all the information needed to process it, and the server does not store client session state between requests. This principle enables scalability and simplifies distributed system design. What is a DTO? DTO stands for Data Transfer Object. It's used to transfer data between layers, avoiding direct exposure of entities. DTOs help create cleaner API contracts and allow better version control for APIs. This pattern is widely used in enterprise applications for separation of concerns. What is the singleton pattern? The singleton pattern ensures that only one instance of a class exists. Spring's singleton bean scope is a practical example of this pattern. Singleton is useful for shared resources like configuration or logging services. What is the factory pattern? The factory pattern creates objects without exposing the creation logic directly. It promotes loose coupling, better abstraction, and easier maintenance. This pattern is common in frameworks and libraries that need to instantiate objects flexibly. What does the O stand for in Solid? It's the open-closed principle. Software should be open for extension, but closed for modification. You should be able to add new behavior without changing existing code. This principle supports maintainability and scalability in large codebases. What is the circuit breaker pattern? The circuit breaker prevents cascading failures between services. If a downstream service fails repeatedly, the circuit opens, causing requests to fail fast temporarily. This allows the system to recover without overwhelming the failing dependency. It's a key pattern for building resilient microservices. Why use an API gateway? An API gateway acts as a single entry point for your system. It handles routing, authentication, rate limiting, logging, and request aggregation. API gateways are very common in distributed systems, simplifying client interactions and centralizing cross-cutting concerns. What is service discovery? Service discovery allows services to locate each other dynamically, which is useful because instances may scale up or down or move frequently. Examples include Eureka, Consul, and Kubernetes DNS. Service discovery is essential for building scalable and flexible microservices architectures. What is the CAP theorem? CAP states that distributed systems can only guarantee two of the following three: consistency, availability, and partition tolerance. Trade-offs are inevitable, and this often leads to architecture-level design discussions. Understanding CAP is crucial for making informed decisions about distributed system design. Monolith or microservices. A monolith is a single deployable application, easier to start and develop locally but harder to scale independently. Microservices are independently deployable, allow easier scaling per service, and provide better ownership boundaries, but introduce more operational complexity. There's no universal winner. It depends on business scale and team maturity. Have you worked with front-end frameworks? Even as a backend engineer, awareness of front-end concepts matters. Interviewers look for understanding around API contracts, CORS, authentication flows, and request-response debugging. Working with front-end teams is highly valued, even if you're not a front-end specialist. For Java backend interviews at this level, strong answers are rarely about memorization. Interviewers look for clear reasoning, production experience, trade-off thinking, a debugging mindset, scalability awareness, and communication clarity. Knowing the syntax helps, but explaining why a design choice was made is what stands out. When preparing for interviews, focus less on definitions and more on why you chose a particular approach, what problem it solved, and what trade-offs you accepted. This mindset demonstrates senior-level thinking and sets you apart from other candidates. A debugging mindset is highly valued in interviews. Be ready to walk through how you'd approach a production issue, what tools you'd use, and how you'd communicate findings with your team. This shows practical experience and readiness for real-world challenges. Scalability is a recurring theme in backend interviews. Be prepared to discuss how you design systems to handle growth, what bottlenecks you anticipate, and how you'd address them. This could involve database sharding, caching, or load balancing strategies. Trade-off thinking is essential for senior engineers. Every design decision involves compromises, whether it's performance versus maintainability or scalability versus complexity. Be ready to discuss the pros and cons of your choices and how you evaluated them. Clear communication is just as important as technical skill. Practice explaining complex concepts in simple terms and ensure your answers are structured and concise. This is especially important when discussing architecture or debugging scenarios. Interviewers value real production experience. Share stories about challenges you faced, how you solved them, and what you learned. This demonstrates not only your technical ability, but also your growth and adaptability as an engineer. A great answer often includes what you would improve next time. This shows humility and a commitment to continuous improvement. Interviewers appreciate candidates who reflect on their experiences and seek to grow. A learning mindset is crucial in tech. Stay curious, keep up with new frameworks and best practices, and be open to feedback. This attitude will help you adapt to changing technologies and excel in your career. Collaboration is key in backend engineering. Highlight your experience working with cross-functional teams, resolving conflicts, and building consensus. Strong collaboration skills make you a valuable team member and leader. Good API design is essential for backend engineers. Focus on clarity, consistency, and versioning. Be ready to discuss how you design APIs for maintainability and ease of use, and how you handle breaking changes. Security is a top priority in backend development. Be prepared to discuss authentication, authorization, data validation, and how you protect APIs from common vulnerabilities. Security awareness sets you apart as a responsible engineer. Thanks for joining this advanced guide to Java backend interview questions. Remember, interviews at this level are about demonstrating your reasoning, experience, and communication skills. Focus on the why behind your answers, share real-world examples, and always be ready to discuss trade-offs and improvements. Good luck with your interviews, and keep learning and growing as a backend engineer.